I am excited for Dolphins football. 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 Woo! Let's go, baby. The Miami Dolphins 2024 schedule has arrived. It is here. The Miami Dolphins have five primetime games this year. Uh, we're going to talk about the schedule. The schedule is out. There's a lot of goosebump matchups on there, man. Goosebump matchups. Some sexy ass matchups for the Miami Dolphins early in the season. Not calling a division game sexy because those are always, tough, fought out games. But there's some games early in the season that I really like for the Miami Dolphins. And then to end the season, they have an absolute gauntlet of a schedule from week 13 until the end of the season. And we'll talk about when they have their bye. We'll talk about the when to expect. I just don't know. Early speculation when Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are going to come back for the Miami Dolphins. But I am excited. I am ecstatic about the Miami Dolphins, and I think something is wrong with me because the last time I watched the Miami Dolphins, they broke my hearts 3 times in a row. And we're not talking about that anymore. No, 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 no. We can in the future. We can in a couple weeks. But right now, I'm focused on this season and this season early. And this season only. When July comes and when training camp comes, what happened last season goes out the window. We have to keep it in the back of our mind, sure. Because the last 2 seasons in a row, under Mike McDaniel, the Miami Dolphins have choked and have lost in the first round of the playoffs. And we thought we had the division locked up by December. And what happened when we had a 3-game lead in the division? We blew it just like that to the Buffalo Bills. And then we had to go to the frozen tundra. We had to go to Kansas City when it was negative 4 degrees. We had to watch Tua Tagovailoa freeze. And we got blown out. We got blown out by the Kansas City Chiefs wild card weekend. But your schedule is here. And by the way, for all the people that are saying that this is a transition year for the Miami Dolphins, you can kiss my ass. And the reason I say that is because, yes, the Miami Dolphins did lose Christian Wilkins. They lost Andrew Van Ginkel, who I wish was still on this team. Yes, they lost Robert Hunt. This is not about Andrew Van Ginkel. Okay, but Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt each costed $100 million. I would have been pissed if Chris Grier paid one of those guys $100 million because that money needs to go to other assets. I am sorry, but Christian Wilkins is awesome, but Christian Wilkins is not worth $27.5 million. Robert Hunt was a good right guard for the Miami Dolphins. He protected Tua Tagovailoa. Last year he got injured, but last year was the first year he got injured. And he is not worth $100 million. A right guard is not worth $100 million. And part of me thinks the Dolphins regret paying the contract they did to Teron Armstead because he's getting a boatload of money as well. But this team is not no slouch. And I feel like people are underestimating the Miami Dolphins going into this season. So, check this out. The Dolphins didn't have a true wide receiver 3 last year. This all season, they just picked up Odell Beckham Jr. The Dolphins, the tight end room stunk last year. Not one tight end scored a touchdown. What do? They go get Jonnu Smith, who's the best tight end yards after catch. I'm not saying they upgraded at center, but Aaron Brewer was the 11th best center out of 32 last year in the NFL. That's pretty solid. So he's not a bad center at all. Let's talk about defense, okay? Um, Chop Robinson is a good pickup in the draft. I liked that. I'm not saying I like that pick, but I'm giving him a chance. Shaq Barrett is a nice vet to have in the locker room to start at edge rusher in the beginning of the weeks, at the beginning of the season. Jordan Brooks is an upgrade over Jerome Baker. Kendall Fuller is an upgrade over Xavier Howard. Jordan Poyer, we'll see if he's an upgrade over Deshaun Elliott or not. But I am excited about this Dolphins team. I know there is so much competition in the AFC, but we had the best offense in the NFL for most of the season last year. I'm expecting them to be one of the best offenses in the NFL again. I'm expecting nothing less. So, without further ado, let's dive into this schedule for the Miami Dolphins. I don't want to waste your time anymore. I don't want to be here all night. So, let's do this. Let's talk schedule. As I said earlier, your Miami Dolphins have 5 primetime games. They got 5. And the introduction video was 22 seconds. It was the fastest introduction video in the NFL. Why? Because the Miami Dolphins are the fucking fastest team in the NFL. That's why. So, let me pull up their schedule real quick. You guys see 2 of the games in the little description right there. Everybody is loving the video of their fastest schedule release. So, here it is. All right, I got it. Got it. Yes, here it is right there. All right. So, for anyone that cares about preseason, the Dolphins have 2 preseason home games against the Falcons, Commanders, and they are on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First preseason game happens on my birthday, August 9th. That's this year, if anyone cares about preseason. I still do preseason content here on the Big Fight Fuel channel when August comes. Regular season. Week 1. We're going to talk about this game by game. I'm not here to give you game predictions. I'm here to talk about the game, where I think they are placed, and all that good stuff. I'm not here to give you my prediction. Week 1. Miami Dolphins at home against Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sexy matchup for the Miami Dolphins to begin the season. Obviously, we know both teams, that's a 1 o'clock game on CBS, by the way. Obviously, we know that both teams did not end the season well. As we know, the Miami Dolphins collapsed at the end of the season, had a 3-game division lead. They blew it. They lost in the wild card round to the Kansas City Chiefs. Jacksonville did not even make the playoffs last year. Jacksonville, at one point in the year, was competing for the number 1 seed. And then on Monday night against Cincinnati, Trevor Lawrence got injured. And that's when their season changed. Trevor Lawrence got injured, and they lost to the Browns. They ended up losing that game to Cincinnati, the game he got injured in. They lost to the Browns. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Buccaneers. They beat the Panthers, who were the worst team in the NFL last year. And the end of the season, win, and you win the division. They lost in the playoffs. Not in the playoffs. They lost to get in the playoffs to the Tennessee Titans. They lost that game. So that was a loss for them. They didn't even make the playoffs. So, but they are a team you can't sleep on. I like that this is our first home game of the regular season. I like the fact that the Miami Dolphins are home to begin the season. Of course, when and I'll talk about this after the Week 4 game, but we get the only Florida team that we play this year out in the sun. That game is going to be a blazing 95 degrees. 90 to 95 degrees. That game is going to be hot. Both teams are used to it, though. Jacksonville's used to it. Miami is used to it. Jacksonville, they're not a team to underestimate. I don't know if they got better than they did last year. Obviously, they don't have Calvin Ridley anymore. They don't have Zay Jones anymore. They have the same offensive line as last year, outside of Mitch Morse, who's their new starting center. And I know that they got Gabe Davis, and they drafted Brian Robinson in the first round of the NFL draft, which he's a good receiver. He's their wide receiver 3, along with Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and then obviously Brian Thomas. But bro, week 1, Trevor Lawrence versus Tua Tagovailoa, sexy matchup, man. Week 2, we are at home once again, this time on Thursday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. So the Miami Dolphins are home early in the season against Buffalo. They are home early in the season against Buffalo. This is after they blew the division against Buffalo at home last year. They get Buffalo on Primetime again. Obviously, Buffalo took a huge hit with wide receiver. They lost a lot of key defensive players. They don't have Tre'Davious White. They don't have Jordan Poyer, who's a Miami Dolphin now. There's a bunch of guys that they don't have that I can't think of off the top of my head. But obviously the biggest loss for them was Stephon Diggs. Clearly he was not happy in Buffalo. He was trashing Josh Allen in the offseason. And obviously the partnership between Buffalo and Stephon Diggs, it just wasn't working out. And they got rid of him. They traded him to the Houston Texans. And now Buffalo's receiving corps is Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, MVS, who they signed yesterday, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Matt Collins, Shakir, and Chase Claypool. So, and even though they got worse, they are still the kings of the AFC. Until they are beat, they are the best team in the AFC. And the number one priority this offseason for this team, for this coaching staff, is to figure out how to beat Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Because I am sick and tired of losing to the Buffalo Bills every single year. Last 16 games against Buffalo, Miami has won twice. They've won twice against the Buffalo Bills in the last 16 games. That shit's gotta change. That's gotta change. And I'm hoping week 2 on Thursday Night Football, the first Thursday Night Football game on Amazon Prime this season, I hope the Miami Dolphins can get that victory against Josh Allen. Because if they start at home, if they beat Trevor Lawrence, if they beat the Jaguars and the Bills to start the season, that's a good tone setter for the other games that you have coming up. Speaking of the other games, week 3, they go to Seattle. Miami to Seattle is the furthest travel destination for the entire NFL. So they are going to travel to Seattle, which is a far trip from Miami. They are going to come home. They're going to get an extra day's rest. And they are going to play the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football, week 4. And the Titans and Monday Night Football in the same sentence gives me nightmares, man. It gives me nightmares thinking about that game in week 14 last year against the Tennessee Titans, Will Levis, you little bastard. We're going to humble you. We're going to show you respect. This is a fucking rematch. Week 4. And I guarantee you, I will be at this game. I was at it last year. I was left heartbroken walking out of Hard Rock Stadium. I don't know if I've ever been more depressed walking out of a sporting event than I did last year at Hard Rock Stadium. When they lost to the Tennessee Titans, I'm coming back for my revenge. I, as a Dolphins fan, I want my revenge. Us Dolphin fans want our revenge because that loss last year ruined the entire fucking season for the Miami Dolphins last year. And I'll tell you what, that team's not bad. The Titans. That's another team that we have to keep an eye on. They are not a bad team. They upgraded on defense. They have an elite cornerback duo of Chidobe Awuzie, and they got L'Jarius Sneed in a big trade with the Kansas City Chiefs. They also upgraded at offense. I know they lost Derrick Henry, but Tony Pollard is a good running back. They upgraded at offensive line. They drafted J.C. Latham in the NFL draft. They upgraded at wide receiver. Not only did they give Calvin Ridley a 4-year, $92.5 million contract, but they just signed Tyler Boyd to a cheap 1-year deal. So they are no joke. They got D-Hop, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd. They're not a bad team. Now, the biggest question for them this season is going to be how Will Levis performs. That is a huge question mark for the Titans this year, is how is Will Levis going to perform around these weapons that they got. They got a new head coach who's going to be calling the plays for him, and Brian Callahan. This is a new Titans team. And they are a physical football team. We'll see if they are a physical football team because they were physical under Mike Vrabel. I'm happy we are playing the Titans early in the season. I'm happy we are playing them early in the season because the last 2 times we played them late in the season, we lost. And going to Miami in September is going to be fucking beautiful. I will be at that game on Monday night against the Tennessee Titans. Folks, I'm going to be at that game again. So, last year, we were at... I'm also going to tell you games I'm thinking about going to as well. I forgot to mention that earlier. But I was at 2 games last year. They were both in December. I'm trying not to go to any games in December this year, bro. None. I can't go to games in December. It's got to be December. It's got to be before December. So, week 4, Monday night against the Titans, I will absolutely be at that game. And then I'll let you know another one, that another couple games I'm thinking about going to. And the first 4 games, this is when we'll stop and we'll kind of discuss about things. Last year, the Dolphins had 3 road games and 1 home game to start the season. This year, it's reverse psychology for the Dolphins. They got 3 home games and 1 road game, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of because in these last 6 games, 4 of them are on the road. We got 4 out of our last 6 games on the road. 3 of them are going to be in freezing temperatures. It's going to be cold late in the season. But, and what I don't like about this as well is the NFL fucked the Dolphins. Right? They knew how much Bills fans complained. Now, I'm not sitting here. I don't want to be the person to complain about the weather, but is it a coincidental? Is it a coincidence that in September, the first 3 out of 4 games are home, and 2 of them are on prime time? There's only 2 primetime games at Hard Rock Stadium this year. And the 1 home game we got is against the only Florida team on our schedule, the Jacksonville Jaguars. See, my dog barking is even excited about this upcoming season. Let's continue. This is a game I'm thinking about going to, not necessarily sure. Um, but this is week 5 at Gillette Stadium against the New England Patriots. I'm definitely trying to catch a Patriots-Dolphins game this season, whether it's in Foxborough, whether it's in Miami, considering my brother and dad are both Patriot fans. They never have been out to Gillette Stadium before. They haven't been to a Patriots game in a couple of years. We're trying to make it this year against the Dolphins. But this will be the Miami Dolphins' first look at Drake May. So there's that. Week 5 on the road against the Patriots. That's a 1 o'clock game on Fox. Week 6 is our bye. Now, I have my thoughts on this. I like the middle of the season bye, and I'm used to the middle of the season bye, so the fact that we're not getting that this year, it does stink, but think about it like this. I don't know, and this is where Jalen and Bradley Chubb come in. I don't know when they're going to come back, but this is a week for them to rest and recuperate. And this is just another week for the Miami Dolphins to buy their time before they hopefully get Jalen back and they hopefully get Bradley Chubb back. So, this week 6 bye for the Dolphins, it's good, but it's also, it could be bad as well. So, we'll see. We picked things back up. Week 7 on the road against the Indianapolis Colts, 1 o'clock on Fox. A young up-and-coming team. The Colts are not bad. Anthony Richardson got injured early in the season. And, I would go as far as calling that a sexy matchup. Tua Tagovailoa against Anthony Richardson and the Colts. I mean, that's going to be a good game. Not like I care about good games as a Dolphins fan. I want wins. I don't care about good games. But I could see that being a very close competitive game. Jonathan Taylor's a great running back. They've got good receivers. They upgraded at defense this year. They got a good culture down there with Shane Steichen. The Colts are not a bad team. And I could see them at the end of the season competing for a playoff spot. I'm not saying the Colts are going to be a playoff team this year, but I can absolutely see them competing for a playoff spot. They are no slouch. The Colts. They are no slouch at all. So, that's week 7. And then week 8, the Miami Dolphins are back at Hard Rock Stadium against the Arizona Cardinals, 1 o'clock on Fox. I don't want to disrespect the Cardinals, but I would say this is probably the most winnable game on our schedule. This has to be a win. It just simply has to be a win. Week 8 against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Week 9, we go to Buffalo. At Buffalo, week 9, 1 o'clock. It's a 1 o'clock game on CBS. Now, I like this because yesterday, when I saw that Miami was going to be playing Buffalo in Miami the second week of the season, I'm like, we're going to get Buffalo in December. But don't worry, folks. We got cold games in December regardless. We got cold games in December. But I'm okay with this. Before it gets really cold, we go to Buffalo. And we are done with Buffalo for the season after week 9. So I'm okay with this. I'm alright with it. Here comes your third primetime game. Week 10 on the road. SoFi Stadium against the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. Talk about goosebumps sexy matchup. Tua Tagovailoa versus Matthew Stafford. Both teams were in the playoffs last year. Both of them, I think, have top 5 offenses in the NFL. Rams are a very good team. That's going to be a fun game. That's going to be a really fun game on Monday night. And, you know, Rams are really good. The Rams are really good. Obviously, they got Cooper Kupp. He's injured all the time. But they got Puka Nacua, who might have overtaken the number one receiver spot over Cooper Kupp. They got some young defensive players as well. Obviously, Aaron Donald retired this past offseason, but they picked up Tre'Davious White. They still got some young defensive players in Young. I think his name's Brian Young. Really good defensive edge rusher. And then they get back-to-back home games at Hard Rock Stadium once again. Week 11, they play the Las Vegas Raiders, 1 o'clock on CBS. This is the Christian Wilkins return game. This right there. The Christian Wilkins return game is happening week 11. That should be fun. We'll see how the Raiders are by then. I'm not exactly expecting too much from the Raiders this season, to be honest with you. Week 12, we get the Patriots again, 1 o'clock CBS. Again, I'm not exactly sure where the Patriots are going to be at this point of the season. They might be out of it by whatever we know. They might be out of it by that time. But those are basically the games I'm thinking about going to this year. I know I'm going to be at the Titans game week 4 on Monday Night Football. I'm going there with my friend again. We're running it back. But the other games I'm thinking about going to is one of the games against the Patriots, week 5 and week 12. Leaning towards more of the week 12 game against the New England Patriots. Week 13. Now this is where shit hits the fan. It gets hard. It gets difficult. It gets difficult. Week 13. Thanksgiving night. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the sexiest matchup out of all of them. Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love, Dolphins, Packers on Thanksgiving night. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. It's not even going to be the coldest game of the season for the Dolphins. But the last time the Dolphins played the Packers ruined my Christmas. Or I should say the Dolphins ruined my Christmas by losing to the Green Bay Packers. Tua threw 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter that day. I was miserable for the rest of Christmas. Thankfully, the football gods put the Dolphins on an evening primetime game on a holiday so that I'm not miserable throughout the entire day. But the Packers have the potential to ruin my Thanksgiving again this year. I don't want that. I don't want to see that. But that's going to be a huge game. Dolphins, Packers, Thanksgiving night at Lambeau Field. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. But it's not even going to be the coldest game of the year for the Dolphins. Week 14, we are at home against the Jets. This is our first game of the season against the Jets. And yes, I do think the Jets upgraded, but I am not as worried about the Jets as I was last year. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old, and he's coming off an Achilles tear. And do we really think Aaron Rodgers is going to make it through the entire season? With all due respect, is he going to make it throughout the year? We don't know. The NFL certainly thinks so, because 6 out of the first 11 weeks of the season, the Jets have primetime games. I just wanted to mention that real quick. Just throw it in there real quick. Absolutely ridiculous, bro. The Jets have 6 primetime games in the first 11 weeks of the season. Like, who made the fucking schedule and thought, let's put the Jets? Obviously, because of Rodgers. The Dolphins scored 30 on their elite defense. Elite defense. Twice. Not once, twice. So that's week 14. That is at Hard Rock Stadium, by the way. Week 15, we go on the road against the Houston Texans. That'll be a big late in the year matchup for playoffs. Not bigger than week 17. But this is pretty big. CJ Stroud. They got Stephon Diggs. They got Joe Mixon. They got Danielle Hunter on the defensive side. They are arguably the best team in the AFC this year. A lot of people think they're the best team in the AFC this year. I don't think so. I would put the Chiefs over them. I would put the Ravens over them. And then I would say it's the Houston Texans. But this is a huge matchup late in the year. The Texans, they're probably going to be balling by then. Dolphins are hopefully going to be there as well. Week 16, America's Game of the Week. This is a 4:25 game against the San Francisco 49ers. Wish this game was earlier in the season so we could get the 49ers out of the way. But in the toughest stretch, we are arguably playing the best team in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm telling y'all right now, their fans travel well. Really well. That stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, is going to have a lot of red that game. I'm just telling y'all. Because their fans know how to fucking travel. They do it well. They do it well. Shout out to 49er fans. That's it. That's a national televised game, week 16. And then, my guess is this will have huge playoff implications. Week 17, on the road, in freezing Cleveland, Ohio, it'll be the Dolphins versus the Browns on Sunday Night Football. Massive game. Massive, massive, massive end of the season game for the Miami Dolphins. If they are competing for a wild card spot, if they are looking to keep a division lead at this time next in week 17, this is a massive game. Now I will say, last season, the Cleveland Browns defense was better at home than they were on the road. And this game is in Cleveland. And that Browns defensive line, led by Myles Garrett, against this Miami Dolphins offensive line, scares me. Scares me. It does. I think the Browns defense is going to have a good game then. Again, it's way too early to predict, but the thing that is going to be the end-all, be-all for the Browns this season is Deshaun Watson. There is no Joe Flacco to come and save the day like he did last season. Joe Flacco saved the Cleveland Browns season last year. He's not there anymore. They don't have another Joe Flacco on the team. Joe Flacco is a Cole, nonetheless. This season for the Browns, I don't think they're better than Baltimore or Cincinnati, but they are a damn good team. And this season for them is going to come down to how good Deshaun Watson is. If he's back to his elite self, the Browns are going to be right there. If not, they might be a middle-of-the-pack team. Who knows? But I think that's going to end up being a huge game for the Miami Dolphins. And then week 18, they end the season at MetLife Stadium against the Jets. So, if I had to pick 5 games that are probably the biggest games on the Dolphins' schedule this year, I would say week 1 and 2 against Jacksonville and Buffalo, because you got to get off on the right foot. You can't go 1-1 in those games. It's got to be 2-0. Got to go 2-0. Got to beat Jacksonville. And you, for Christ's sake, you got to fucking find a way to beat the Bills. You got to. So, it's got to happen. Those are huge games. So Jaguars, Bills, I would throw Cleveland in there. I would put both Buffalo games in there, to be honest with you. Jacksonville, Cleveland, and I'll put the Green Bay game in there, just because I think that is going to be must-watch television. Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love. Dolphins better win that game. Better beat the Packers on a holiday this year. But ladies and gentlemen, that is your Miami Dolphins 2024 schedule, and those are my reactions. For those asking when I do predictions, I don't do predictions until Labor Day. So, unless anything else happens in the offseason, I'll be here to break it down. If not, we'll be back in July. So, that is all I got. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Big Fight Field channel if you have not already. Hit the like button if you liked what you heard from me. Follow me on Twitter, Colin_Joseph. If you're a Dolphins fan, leave a comment down below. And I'm telling y'all right now, man, it's going to be an exciting season. It's only 3 months away. Let me look it up real quick. How many more days until September 8th? $116. We are 116 days away from the Miami Dolphins taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Week 1. I can't wait. I can't wait, man. That's all I got. I'm out. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good night. Stay safe. And as always, go Dolphins. Peace.